Professor Aaron Mike Oquaye is a former Speaker of Parliament. He is a founding member of Ghana's biggest opposition party, the New Patriotic Party, a lawyer and a professor of politics. So he's a man who wears many hats. There are a number of issues that have come up in Ghana from Parliament, where he was the speaker, to how the country is going, to things that are happening within the party that he helped to found, the New Patriotic Party. We want to talk about them today. Hello, my name is Beatrice Edu. Thank you so much for joining us for this conversation. And Prof, thank you so much for joining us as well for this conversation. Thank you for making time for us.
Thank you very much. You are most rather welcome to my home. And I appreciate that. And
Happy New Year to you, sir.
Oh, many happy returns to you too.
Let me first ask you, just a few days to the presidential primary by the NPP, what would be your own assessment as regards preparations towards this?
Very, very good preparations. And what is happening now is a very important development. And in this country, actually, we must be going forward in everything that we do. Our constitution itself enjoins, the 1992 constitution, that the internal practices of all political parties must abide by the tenets of the constitution and by democratic principles. So we must do things right and properly. Otherwise, in fact, very soon, you will find some people taking the political parties to court because they are not adhering to the basic principles of democracy. Being mindful of this, we also examined ourselves particularly some 2 years ago, before the last elections that we held in order to have our candidates. So we had to examine ourselves as to the challenges within the party. What you saw on Thursday was an answer to certain concerns. And of course, at every time, we must interrogate our systems and improve upon things to ensure that the system does not favor anyone against the others. A level playing field. And also that there will be trust and convenience in the process.
What exactly is happening that makes you think that preparations towards the presidential primary are good?
You remember some of the difficulties in elections, intra-party elections, regarding both two big political parties. The NDC have had their own problems. We've also had our own problems. Therefore, we're saying, what are some of the areas that might cause dispute? One, should our regional chairman be responsible for the elections? No. Should ministers have a particular place to control anything at all during our elections? That is, when we are in power and we have ministers? No. We decided under the committee that I chaired that all matters regarding the actual conduct of the elections should not be a party affair. It should be the preserve of the national institution responsible for political parties.
And that's which one?
Now, of course, that is the Electoral Commission. So, the processes by which the Electoral Commission just printed ballot papers, in fact, at one time, even our party were printing our own ballot papers. And that could be a source of suspicion for some people. So we said the entire management of the election per se should be the business of the Electoral Commission. No party person should have any control or give any direction over how it should be done.
So when you say the issue where the Electoral Commission is printing ballot papers, are you referring to issues prior to 2024 general election, or you're still referring to the NPP's internal election?
Issues regarding previous elections. And we're talking then about the issues that many people raised by way of their concerns.
Now, you talked about the fact that the NPP or political parties must respect democratic principles. And yet, this very presidential primary you're going into, a number of people have expressed reservations about why the party has chosen to do this upside down. Instead of organizing your grassroots elections, you've decided to do presidential first.
You've jumped to another area. There's no upside down. And you realize that soon after the choice of the presidential candidate, we are going back to the bottom to the top approach.
So why did you choose it
this way? No, but
this
one, you see, the tenure, the constitutional provision for the choice of a presidential candidate has not lapsed. And people sometimes forget, it has not lapsed. Therefore, we are not doing any top bottom. Any time within the period that we're talking about, we can select our presidential candidate. Therefore, we decided to select the candidate early so that we shall have someone who will now stand for the party. To have it early so that a lot of the schisms that were taking place will end as soon as possible. So you realize that when we went to amend the constitution, with regard, for example, a little bit of enlargement towards a future enlargement, we did not include a top to bottom approach, because the situation allows us to choose any time during this period. We have decided to elect the candidate within the very time provided for in our constitution.
But is that not what could have fueled the mistrust that you talked about, which is why you decided to go?
No, it did not. People who did not understand it made a lot of statements. Later on, they understood. Have you heard anyone complaining about that issue?
Well, Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo, who is a founding member like yourself.
I don't want to talk about certain personalities, especially those who we know are opposing virtually everything. The executive have the power constitutionally to have this election during this period. Yes, they have. We did not have to amend the constitution in order, therefore, to conduct this particular event. So those who are saying otherwise, they don't really appreciate the full dynamics of that constitution. When this is over, other elections will take place. But the party thought we must have it early so that we'll have a candidate early, so that also some of the difficulties of people speaking against each other will also end as soon as possible. It was well intended.
It was well intended, you say, Prof. But those who are and that's just the last question on this very particular
people who don't attend our meetings, people who have excluded themselves from our party, I mean, they cannot decide upon things for us sitting somewhere else. So let's leave that area.
Let's talk positive. Yes, I was just going to say that per your own constitution, they were nearing their tenure.
They are not nearing it yet. It will come after June.
After June. So the point was that this was a team that led the party into its defeat. At least let their tenure end, get new people, and then follow through the process.
No, that is an opinion. The important thing is what is being done is legal, is constitutional, and it is in the best interest of the party. Because I've told you, there have been a number of difficulties, even among contestants. Let us put an end to all this as quickly as possible. And then we have a candidate who will now be the leader of the battle for grabbing political power from our opponents.
Prof,
that's all.
You made a categorical statement, and you seem to have been happy with it, that preparations going into the presidential primary are very well. And yet, few days to the elections, we've had especially the leading aspirant throwing jabs at each other, with the latest coming from Kennedy Japan calling the former vice president a liar, and the reactions from that camp. You should be worried about that.
Well, therefore, if the Congress is early, so that such matters will end as soon as possible. Of course, you will understand. You will understand. That is why the Congress is early, so that we'll put an end to all this, put them behind us, and move on forward towards the main purpose of the party to contest the national general elections. But of course, some of these matters on social media, they are not even easy to verify.
I've watched the video of Kennedy Japan.
I haven't, unfortunately. And when these come to the disciplinary committee, action is always taken by way of advisory aspects of this by the National Council of Elders.
Has it come to the disciplinary committee yet?
I say, this matter, I don't even know of it. So
you don't know about
it might be something fresh.
But beyond that, I mean, this throwing of jabs, we've even heard the spokespersons exchange words on social media.
These difficulties, they do arise. If you want us to go into history, go and ask Obeda Samoa what happened to him at an NDC Congress. Go and ask ACM what also happened to her. Dr. Kwesibotu is gone. But go, if he were here, you will see how he had to run for his life at an NDC Congress. But you see, these difficulties are not the essence of what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a level playing field. A level playing field whereby the Electoral Commission has been invited to conduct the elections. In fact, choose the sites into an open spaces whereby there will be nobody doing any kululu in any corner. The police have been made part and parcel of the process. This was not done before. We just invited them so that they will come and observe. Now, they are not observers. The IGP has been told, and the IGP did reiterate that the police are fully in charge of the process. We have ceded that one to them as well. The National Peace Council was also invited to be part and parcel of the process so that we all know that this is not an event that one can sort of play kululu on, but that we are going by democratic principles as indeed we are enjoined by the national constitution. These are positive developments, and I will prefer to hammer on these positivities, and then we'll move forward. I've told you that we are progressing. You are progressing.
Have you heard of vote buying allegations? So that beyond what the Electoral Commission may come to do, whoever pays more would eventually get elected anyway.
I don't really know. But, you know, I've spoken on various fora against vote buying. And the principle of the monocracy generally. But these are secret events. Everywhere. In the national election, votes were bought, we are told.
So possibly the elections may not
So
be
any matter about vote buying, I personally condemn it, because these things don't help to promote democracy. But it's not peculiar to this particular Congress in any way at all. And I am really working on the positivities, particularly on the recommendations that I chaired some 2 years ago, having studied the difficulties that we're having in our elections generally in this country, and in fact helped to introduce the principle of the IPAC, bringing the IPAC national to the IPAC in the party. We called it, therefore, Intra-Party Advisory Committee, so that at every given stage, the candidates had representatives at the committee, and then they helped to decide on every matter, including things like proxy, how to work on proxy. I tell you, all the political parties have problems with proxy votes, whether it is the party A or party B, but then how do you restrict it? I helped to introduce the concept of affidavits being sworn. If you are not able to come and vote, swear an affidavit, and you could be held responsible if you swore a false affidavit. Therefore, there are developments, positive developments, to make the process better and improve upon intra-party party democracy.
Prof, the intent of the question I asked earlier was that people feel this has gone on for too long, and perhaps leaders, including yourself, have failed at solving this, which is why just a few days to the presidential primary, we're still hearing all these things coming up from among.
We will continue to hear them, whether it's party A or party B. And I'm very glad, for example, about some of the recommendations that Professor Prempeh has made with regard to electoral elections in Ghana and monocracy. I've written on this. I've brought out mechanisms on this. We have to work it all as a nation. Our national election last time, if you heard some of the things that people did with regard to money, it's not the best.
So I wasn't asking about the money. I was asking about the pronouncement by the candidates and people feeling that elders like yourself have failed at dealing with the problem.
And also pronouncements, generally. What haven't we heard, particularly with regard to this freedom of expression that is being abused left, right, and center?
You don't think you failed at dealing with the problem?
I don't think. I would say there's room for improvement. I would say there's room for improvement.
So you could have done better than you have done now?
We could have done better. I mean, I'm talking as a nation, not as a party. As a nation, we could have done better. Look at the vituperative nature of political discourse as a whole in this country. It's not the best.
It's not the best, you say. There are those who also argue that looking at the utterances of these individuals, they probably may not even be qualified for the party to elect towards 2028 general election. How do you respond to that?
that is a bit difficult. And you realize that many of these difficulties actually come with the supporters. Many of them come with the supporters. And sometimes they may even say things that the candidate does not really approve of. But nevertheless, the committees that are responsible for discipline, I tell you, they are busy calling people their attention to what is not acceptable, and also the Council of Elders using their advisory capacities as well on these matters.
The candidates themselves have been throwing jabs. Who has been called to the disciplinary committee?
Disciplinary committee issues, invitations by the Council of Elders are not matters that we discuss.
Has anybody been called?
I would say they are not matters that we discuss in public. But in actual fact, this has been the practice of the National Council of Elders as well as the disciplinary committee.
I respect the fact that you don't want to divulge information, but has any of the 5 candidates been called?
It's the same information, in fact, put in a different color. You are asking the same thing.
But what do you intend to do about it?
I recommend strongly, one, that the Council of Elders in political parties must play an adjudicatory role. In Britain, the House of Lords have a judicial committee of the Privy Council. That judicial committee helps to resolve problems well behind the scenes, because after conflicts, they do arise in all society. And if you have such conflict resolution as well as conflict prevention mechanisms, it helps the society better.
On Thursday, the 22nd of January, of course, few days to the election again, that's about 9 days or so, you signed a peace pact. Yes. To what extent does this bring some sort of sanity or calmness, as it were, to this whole scene ahead of the 31st primary?
The peace pact, strictly speaking, is not what I may call a contractual legal document. But we are all supposed to be decent people. We are all supposed to subscribe to the rules of the game. We are all enjoined to be decent in our operations, and also to devise methods of managing state affairs so that we don't complain after the event. It is a way of showing, I introduced it 2 years ago. It is a way of showing that the processes have been fair. And you realize this was mentioned on Thursday. And also that all things going by what has been established, including leaving police matters to police and not to some macho men, including leaving ballot issues to the Electoral Commission and not any individuals, no matter who they are in the party. All things being equal, you are part and parcel of this, and you therefore subscribe to it, that all is fair.
So you say that it is not supposed to be contractual, meaning you agree with those who say that, or who have actually said it's just a piece of paper, it doesn't mean anything.
No, decent people, you know what? In decent societies, a person takes a phone and he says, supply so and so amount of that. The following day, it's on the ship coming because of somebody's telephone call. That is respect. That is trust. That is confidence. Our society must grow towards that. You
have tried to fix your responses in the national context. Skeptics are saying that we saw what happened within the 8 years administration of the Akufo-Addo government. People died. There were peace pacts that were signed. If that could not be done, what is the confidence here that you're going to be able to ensure that people have signed and at least they recognize to ensure the right thing is done?
Decency is not a one-day development. It's a difficulty in society, especially developing nations. It's true. We have not developed systems. And I speak in a national context so that it doesn't become a party banter. Because there are commonalities. These commonalities, journalists and all, must help to improve upon.
So the chaos we saw and the response that we saw to those chaos was as a result of system failure?
What chaos, for example, are you referring to?
I'm talking about the 8 people who died and the others who died in the different major elections we had within that 8 years. You say that it was a system failure.
All these things traverse to Cheriponi, Akwetia, also West Wogon, and so on and so forth. A holistic issue. You remember a law came to Parliament against these events so that vigilantism will be eschewed. These are all part of the developments, and we should all help so that they develop. In fact, these days, some who want to pick up on the media will talk about vituperative media and so on and so forth. But it's because the whole society has become rather a bit difficult. I think holistically, we can work to improve upon it.
You wouldn't say or you wouldn't blame the individuals who are in power for what might have happened, but people are equally concerned about the kind of response, to an extent that people were concerned about investigations not being done until quite recently. You don't think that was a leadership failure?
Cheriponi and others, Akwetia and co, people continue to blame the government, NDC government, for it, as well as Ayawaso Wogon. People continue to blame the NPP for it. That's why I'm saying, as much as possible, you and others who belong to the Inky fraternity should work also and help so that these things are exposed. One, so that suggestions are made how best these things can be managed.
You don't think it was leadership failure?
You know what? Some commentators, some analysts trace this to the absence of constitutional provisions that allow meritocracy and independence of institutions to work. For example, appointments of IGPs generally in this country. How can there be trust when we as a people have made it a point when a government goes, it goes with its IGP, it goes with its military leaders, it goes with this, it goes with that. I'm not talking about one particular party. It crosses around both parties. When you have that kind of system, then it's, of course, the word you have used, systemic failure. It's a systemic failure. But when we develop to the point whereby institutions will be strong and as independent as possible, then the whole thing becomes different. Let me talk about the Council of State briefly in this regard. We have a Council of State. essentially is to advise the executive as well as certain advisory work in certain advisory capacities generally. Then we give 5 places for the president to choose who should be the advisors. A president can choose, and when I say this, I'm not talking about any particular president. I'm talking about the position of a president. Because I started saying this several years ago, including time whether NPP or NDC was in power. Then we give the president 5 spaces for him to choose advisors. But the man can choose, or the man or the woman can choose as many advisors that he wants to advise him in his work. You know what? In Ghana, it doesn't matter which part you come from, north, south, east, west. There's one thing: no chief chooses members of his advisory council.
That's a different kind of governance system.
No, but that is what we must learn and get examples from. The chief's advisors are there before he comes. And Chidom Hine, so Hine, and so they all have their powers. That is what one may call countervailing authority.
So, Prof, the question I was asking you earlier, which I'm not sure I've received answers to, was yes, there could be institutional failure, but strong institutions are managed by strong personalities.
Well, that's if a person wants the right thing to be done, it's good. But that doesn't make him a strong personality by the conceptualization of it.
So what I meant by
all
that
you have
was
to
that
do is to work within the full parameters of the rules of the game and the institutional systems established over the years.
People called for investigations, and it was up until recently that we saw something being done. And that's why I asked you the question, was it a leadership failure?
Where there was a need to set up committees to investigate, like Chereponi, like Oquaye, and it was not done, it was a failure. Where it was done, like Awayasu Wogon, and it was done, it was not a failure. So you realize that sometimes it was better to investigate. In some cases, it was not done.
The government did not necessarily accept what had been reported by Emil Short, and a lot of the things said a different thing, really.
Different attitudes and approaches were held. And as of today, I will wish that in all those matters, there was an investigation. But you realize that, at least with regard to Ayawaso, there was an investigation. With regard to Chereponi, Oquaye, and others by the NDC, there was no investigation was allowed. And this is the difference, if you, any at all. So if you didn't accept everything completely, but at least you accepted some, and the report too was published, it's better than when people just did a cover-up. But you see, I will not want to go so much into those areas to give the impression that I'm now doing an NPP NDC banter. I want to speak with regard to some of these statesmanly issues and analytical areas that will bring better governance to Ghana. You
chaired a committee to come out with a report regarding why the NPP had that kind of failure or defeat in the 2024 general election. And we've even heard the General Secretary of the party say that that report will not be made public. Why?
Oh, Professor Kwesi Botwe was my senior in Presec, who published the Kwesi Botwe report.
But there were some highlights that we saw.
There were no highlights anywhere. Some people said these are highlights. There was no official highlighting. Those are internal documents. In fact, some people have even asked why we as a committee did not make copies available to certain personalities in the party. But it was not meant so to be. When you are commissioned by a body to do a work, when you finish that work, you have to report to those who commissioned you. That I can tell you honestly, and by good faith, as a Christian, that I don't have a copy.
But you chaired the committee.
Yes, I don't need to keep a copy. The secretary has a copy.
And you have every information in the report.
Yes,
anyway. You
that
don't need to
one I
have a
can
copy.
talk about it. But I'm just trying to let you know, I am not expected to talk about it.
So
I report to those who commissioned me. When I do that, I'm finished. Not a copy was given to any other human being on this earth. And I think that's the way the work must be done.
So how will stakeholders who contributed to whatever happened in 2024 get to know what went wrong and learn?
That is why we reported to the National Council of the party, the highest decision body outside conference. When we report to them, we have washed our hands of it. And they've started implementing some areas, and they are going to implement more in due course, which we quietly are observing.
Critics claim that perhaps you are not publishing because it might expose, the report might expose the current leadership and how badly they performed ahead
Nobody
of 2024.
ever publishes such reports. They are not meant for the public. The NDC never has. The NPP will not do so. Why? Because those who commission, you report to them, and they use aspects as they think fit to improve upon situations.
Fortunately, you chaired that committee. What highlights were in that report?
I've just told you that we don't report to outsiders. We report to those who commissioned us. And actually, I mean exactly what I'm saying. And in fact, there are some people who have even grievances against some of us, particularly me as chairman, because I did not go to present them with copies of the report. I don't think they are right.
So you're not sharing any highlights even here?
I don't. I'm not expected to. In fact, it would be irresponsible on my part, and I'm subject to disciplinary action if I should start throwing matters of the report into the public realm.
Prof, former President Oquaye seems unhappy about a lot of things happening with
I
the
will not
current
discuss
NPP.
that. Don't start. I won't even discuss it.
You don't want to talk about him?
No. He's a big man.
But looking at all the things he said, is that not, people think perhaps it's
I'll be very
indicative that
glad.
the party may not be in the right direction?
I will be glad if President Oquaye was my boss, you know.
Yes.
President Kufuor was the next president of our great party, you know. I would not want to go into those waters. There are many important matters to talk about.
How do you interpret what happened between Professor Frimpong Boateng and the NPP?
I won't go into those areas.
I'm going to Professor Frimpong Boateng because he said some things and the party said...
In fact, to me, he's supposed to have said something. I cannot even talk about whether that thing is actually verifiable.
One of the things that came out on Thursday from the former president, he said a party that cannot accept defeat cannot win the confidence of Ghanaians. Would you say that the NPP has accepted defeat?
Oh, definitely. The NPP has accepted defeat. The NPP has not gone to court to challenge the verdict. And the NPP has not staged any demonstration or remonstration, whatever, about the outcome of the election. And the NPP, and what the former president said is very correct, because the NPP rather is interrogating itself to see how best it can improve upon practices so as to gain political power.
How do you then interpret a lot of comments from people, both members and leaders, that whatever it is that we are seeing in the current government is because of what the NPP did before they lost power?
Basically, we accept certain problems. We accept that certain decisions were not right. We accept that certain actions and inactions should be done differently so that when we are in power again, we will better serve the people. And those internal admissions are very, very important. If you don't accept your wrong, you cannot improve upon your performance in the future.
Let me ask you, the peace pact that was signed, did all the candidates agree to sign it happily?
Oh, they agreed. You know, I've told you about what I helped to establish 2 years ago. Because from 1992 I had observed all congresses. We got to see what happened and how they can be improved upon, including even bringing an IPAC. Maybe our opponents one day may also adopt an IPAC in their internal politicking. So you realize that actually, depending upon the improvements they had seen, if you were complaining about proxy is out. If you were complaining about interference by regional chairmen and so on and so forth, it is out. If you are not satisfied about how people will come and vote and whether there's going to be camping and so on and so forth, that is also out. If you camp, you are disqualified. It was part of the institutional corrections that we made and so on and so forth. So with those issues that had been addressed, definitely a person should be happy.
One of the things dominating conversations now has been the former finance minister. What's your thought on the trajectory he's decided to be on?
At the moment, we'll have to wait and see the developments in America. I'm very objective in some of these matters. So I don't like jumping the gun with regard to anything. When the process has matured enough, we can make comments.
So what I mean by that question is the request for him to come home and he choosing to stay there because
I don't know the factors that have made him choose that pathway. Let us wait for everything to unfold. But then we can comment.
But if you are advising him, would you ask him to come home?
If I should advise him, I will request all the documentation regarding the matter, including his health, including whatever other challenges he may have faced. When I get a full dossier, then I will make a comment.
Many think the president should ask him to come home because, I mean, even...
I don't know what the former president knows, and I don't know what communication we have given, directed to his senior brother, and I will wait also to know these facts in order to comment. I have not had any conversation with the former president regard to that matter. Then I go and make public comments.
But as a founding member of the NPP, aren't you concerned about it? How Ghanaians are talking?
I'm concerned and I'm observing.
Concerned in which way?
Concerned about what is happening.
How?
In the sense that a former finance minister is in that situation. And if you wait and see, you can make better comments.
Prof, in that, I just want to understand the context within which you're saying. That he is in that situation, how exactly do you mean?
Oh, by way of the accusation, by way of the allegations. True or not true, I'm not able to say. By way of the present quagmire in the United States of America, and so on and so forth. If you have a complete background as to the dynamics, then you can comment upon it.
People say this is a dent on the NPP, irrespective of how you're looking at it.
Wait until the events have played out, then we can comment on what is a dent and what is not a dent.
You talked about current issues again. How would you rate President John Mahama in 1 year?
I would rather wait and see about further developments regarding this regime.
But so far, what would you say about the economy and corruption?
If I were to say I've made up a mind so far, I would have told you I have not made any mind.
Not even on illegal mining, nothing at all. As regards illegal mining, how the government is fighting it.
Oh, illegal mining, the government is saying something. I believe that a government which has got a mandate to rule deserves some time for us to see whether word is matching action or not.
So far, you haven't seen anything?
So far, I would rather not jump into the affray.
You seem to have issues with the lithium agreement. What exactly do you have you seen?
I link up the lithium issue with our perennial IMF visits. Ghana has been to the IMF 17 times. And in fact, we were to come out of the IMF in March or so. We have just been told that now we are going to add 3 months. And when the president, for example, was talking about our imminent getting out of the IMF, he seemed to be very happy about it. But then suddenly, and I also was happy about it. Ghanaians should be happy about it. But suddenly, we are going to extend this to further 3 months, which means there's still a difficulty. The difficulty about the IMF, I say, is not the doing of any particular government. Because the NDC have been there, the NPP have been there, the military governments have been there. The only government that was never there was the Kwame Nkrumah regime.
Perhaps the reason people are seeing a difference is that the NPP said a category.
Wait,
Finance Minister said we're not going there.
But some people too have just said they are leaving in 3 months. Now they say they are contracting other 3 months. You see, don't lead me there. I don't like a banter of NPP, NDC, NPP, NDC, NDC, NPP. This is what, to me, is, as a statesman, is destroying this country. Let us look at the issues and the principles. If a country cannot manage its budget, if we want free education and we cannot afford it, if people have to go on the national health insurance and yet it becomes a porous area, it doesn't matter which party is in power, there will be difficulty. Because because we have given our lithium away, because we have given the oil away. That's why I'm making that linkage. I hope you get me. Mutifo na muka say edrono ebesa oyare atrema. If IMF visitation will save this country, we wouldn't have gone 17 times. Atrema.
So
and I'm saying therefore that what do we have? Is that how Dubai made their oil arrangement by way of royalties? No. And we all know it. Then why do we continue to pursue the royalty pathway? The present one now is ownership. The world paradigm now, which has shifted from royalties, which is like Jikodidi, we have now moved to ownership. We must own what we already own. We own the lithium. You are coming to mine it. There might be such an arrangement that we bring all the equities on the table and then we decide upon the shares. Before we even start putting the equity on the table, Ghana has got more than 50% because the thing belongs to us. The quintessence of the arrangement, which is lithium mineral, which will last for only 15 years, 12 to 15 years, belongs to Ghana. So we put that there and we take our equity already. Then we have already also put in money. And you know that all the monies that we have already put in as Ghana from our minerals investment fund that we have used, we put that also there and so on. When we have worked the equities, those people who are coming, they are not holding bags of money. They are going to borrow from the market. We all go and borrow from the market and do the work and own the bigger share of the product. If you look at what we call byproducts of this, that will lead to all manner of jobs and so on and so forth. Processing here in Ghana, making batteries here in Ghana, so that we can now power computers in the rural areas for our JSS and SHS students and so on. It can only happen if they don't ship the raw material away. But that is what we are now bargaining for.
We'll go into that, but you said that we're giving our minerals away. This lithium contract, for instance, it was just 13%. What did you say about it?
First of all, it was 10%. But now, have you seen the starting point? It's going to be 9%. Already there, it's lower. But even when the NPP government was talking 10%, I was saying no. Because we want to own the thing. You are talking to me about royalty. The owner, it's a colonial arrangement, which long is gone. When the white man actually owned everything, he owned everything because we were colonized. And then they gave us royalties, and we want royalty again. You have mentioned this. Now we start from 9%, and then we graduate it to 13%. Who puts a ceiling upon what you can pay him for what belongs to him? Why? For example, no lawyer advising the owner of a house, and also one advising a person who is going to be a tenant, that, you know what, seal your benefits as the landlord to 13% increase over the years, for example, over a long lease. You cannot do that. Why? Because you don't know tomorrow how the economy will be like. So why are we doing that? And that is what I'm against. We are Ghanaians, government of Ghana. We own the lithium. We are giving it to you. Then we say that when it goes up to a certain price, don't pay me more than 13%. It is your benefit. So why do you say we must have a ceiling? So and I want to use your channel to let Honorable Ama Kofi Bua know that he had no reason to tell us that he was very happy about what has been done. Because you cannot be happy with such an arrangement. When the thing goes high, let us renegotiate. But you say when it goes to 13% and above, beyond 13%, oh, don't worry, take it all. That's what it means, take all. How can you do that?
You talked about the fact that we need to ensure that our budgets takes care of us, and yet we don't have enough, which is why we keep going to the IMF. We seem to see some willingness on the part of the leaders the country has had to make things better. We saw the former president say Ghana beyond aid. We've seen the current president also talk about the need to work on our raw materials so that we get better. In fact, the latest thing that he said was at the World Economic Forum in Davos, where he said, we are depending on outsiders for our security, health, and all of that. That is not good for us. So they seem to have the willingness. Why have we failed at implementing or materializing this willingness into what we need?
It's most unfortunate. Because you see, the gap between words and action is manifestly woeful. And it's very, very clear. In particular, about you young people coming. I tell you, unless we change that paradigm, the paradigm that makes us all want to go to Dubai, unless that is changed, we will continue to go a borrowing, we go a begging, all these people all this time. We must own the thing. I say, let us come to the table and work out the equities. If it is capital, capital is not brought by the investors in their bags. They go and raise it for the capital market. And for capital, it only wants to know, is it economically feasible? What does the report say? How many years? And what will be the economic benefits? They'll give you the money. And also, people talk about expertise. Expertise you hire. These days, any viable company can hire expertise from any part of the world. Go and see top businesses in America, Indian chief executives. You hire expertise. And I tell you, many Ghanaians today are actually working as engineers for top mining companies. And they are working. If you go to Ashanti Gold today, there is no white man working on the engineering area at all.
So we should find those with skills and give them the job.
And form our own cartels and do the job.
Prof, I'm taking you back to Parliament, where you presided as a speaker. And in 2020, there was a significant issue that happened when you ruled to say that as long as the Fomina MP had decided he was going independent, he had vacated his seat and declared that there should be a by-election. Yet, 4 years down the line, when another issue came back with 4 MPs, when the NDC was the minority, you criticized them people think that that's contradictory. If you could explain to us what happened.
It is not contradictory at all. That provision, when the NPP came out with a request, I told them, as a party, they must make it formal. I believe that that provision is to inure to the benefit of political parties. The party made their request. Then I invited the person they were complaining against.
As in the former MP.
Exactly. Odi Oteram Partem. Give the other party an opportunity to be heard. You cannot take a disciplinary action against any person without hearing him. He was given every opportunity. He declared on radio that he was not going to attend. After all those opportunities, then the matter was formally decided upon. That is the difference. I pointed out to them that if you want to take this action, you cannot assume that because a person has taken a certain step, you are going to directly punish them. In fact, recently I was telling my party that there's nothing like automatic forfeiture of membership. If you want to forfeit somebody's membership, you have to hear him.
But those four...
The opportunity was there for that person to be heard. So on this occasion, I said, if you want to take a disciplinary action, hear him.
But those individuals had also said that they were not going to be with the party again.
No, they are not. You see, people were assuming. And I say, you must serve him formally with a document saying that this is what has been said against you, this is what is the allegation, this is what you have been accused of, what is your answer?
So the speaker was wrong when he declared
I don't want to, you see, I don't want to go into those areas. I can explain my action. I can tell you why I chose that area of response. And that is how it was different from other things that happened.
So I mentioned the speaker because he used your decision as precedent.
If anybody used my decision as a precedent without following the processes that led to that decision, that person cannot be correct.
At the end of the day, the Supreme Court
Let me tell you, in law, the law and the procedure must rhyme. This is what we were taught in law school. When they don't rhyme, you cannot take that decision and say, I made that decision, and that decision is similar to the person who gave the procedural matter aspect the same effect as the application of the law.
You're a senior lawyer, and I'm glad you talk about this. What would you say then about the decision of the Supreme Court to, turn this whole thing around, saying that it was wrong for the speaker to do that?
That is a decision of the Supreme Court. And in law, we say res ipsa loquitur. It speaks for itself.
The decision of Apenyo Markin to go to court first, people feel that it might have undermined the authority of not just the speaker, but Parliament as a whole.
When?
I'm talking about the same 4 MPs, because he went to court first, even before everything, the dust could settle on the matter. Inviting the Supreme Court in, that was like inviting another arm into...
The Supreme Court is provided by the Constitution as the final adjudicator of all disputes within the Republic, and particularly when a matter has constitutional dimensions, they are to be settled at the Supreme Court. On those 2 legs, has it got constitutional implications? Is it a controversy within the Republic? The Supreme Court is the final arbiter. If you go to court, you do the right thing.
So you don't think his action undermined the authority of Parliament?
When you see that if, in the final analysis, the Supreme Court, Parliament is subject to the judicial authority of the Supreme Court. The President of the Republic is subject to the final authority of the Supreme Court. Even when you are elected and is challenged, the Supreme Court can decide that indeed you lost the election. Is that not enough to tell you that the president can be under the authority of the Supreme Court? So the Supreme Court being the final arbiter, it means that the Constitution admits that there can be controversies in Ghana between whoever. When there's a controversy, authoritatively, the final arbiter, and let everybody know this, is the Supreme Court.
Let me get your general thoughts on the Constitution Review Committee that submitted its reports. The recommendations that came up. As a lawyer,
Professor Prempe has done, and his team, they have done a very good job. In fact, people forget about Professor Fiajo. His voluminous treatise is a good guide, not only even for now, but in futuristic terms as well. The present group have also captured salient aspects. For example, the Fiajo report did not authoritatively decide upon ministers being appointed from Parliament. He said the president should be given a free hand. But that doesn't solve the problem. The Prempe report has really caught the bull by the horn. There should be a total dichotomy.
How do you think this will change the dynamics in Parliament? As a speaker yourself, who oversaw
when
how
you are in
members
Parliament and you are also an MP, when you are a minister and you are also an MP, you will find that you may have to leave cabinet to come and vote because of a crucial debate and because of numbers. When you have to work also in the executive and so on. The committee was quick to add that no member of Parliament shall take any other government position, including members of boards. It became the practice that if you couldn't give somebody a minister, then you must try to compensate him with chairman of a board or member of a board. These were all consequences of ministers being in Parliament.
Do you think those weakened Parliament as an institution?
Of course. When you are going to check yourselves, and you yourselves are members of the boards, how do you do it?
How do you do it? And another thing that came up
it led to conflict of interest, and also not a concentration. You see, we copied America and copied Britain. Therefore, we got lost.
So where should we be?
We should choose one. And I think now the pathway is the American pathway. If you are Secretary of State, you are not a member of Senate or the House of Representatives. You must choose one. And in fact, he went on to recommend further that if you contest the present election and you are elected into Parliament, you cannot resign and go and take the executive position. All part of developing Parliament. And in fact, a senatorial career is a very, very reputable thing in America. No senator wants to resign to become a secretary of the president, minister, if you may so put. And I believe that development will give Parliament experience. It will give Parliament concentration. And we'll see that there will be a different type of legislator in this country if we adopt that.
If we adopt that, 5 years for a president for each term, is that a good idea?
It's not good. And in fact, to my mind, it's not good. It's not necessary. And it was unfortunate to see the reason so that a president can complete his program. No, it is fallacy. And in fact, I had elsewhere advocated a National Development Planning Commission that will be autonomous as much as possible. Presidents shouldn't make members of their commission. The institutions must do that. The engineers institution, the University of Science and Technology, they should nominate those people who will be there. And I believe that we will be better represented if we do the institutional representation.
Beyond the CRC's report, what would be your general assessment of the Parliament we have now?
It's a microcosm of Ghana and acceptable generally. That's what I would say.
Would you say that the minority is doing what it's supposed to do?
The minority is doing what it's supposed to do. The majority is doing what it's supposed to do by way of what we know in Ghana for now. We must improve upon what I have always described as collegiality and conviviality.
You're a diplomat and a former High Commissioner of Ghana to India. I believe you understand the diplomatic space as well. In recent times, we've had the current Foreign Affairs Minister coming under fire for his utterances that perhaps indirectly got America to, take some negative decisions against Ghana. And there are some critics, including the minority, asking the president to relieve him of his post. Understanding this space, what do you think of this call?
He's a fine young man. He's a precept boy, one of my people. When you come to such positions, naturally, there's a little bit of over-enthusiasm. But foreign affairs is very, very systematized. It's a place of serious people, really. They've got some of the best qualities of human beings in Ghana, honestly. And you find that many presidents went for secretary to the cabinet from that ministry. It's a powerful place. I will only advise my good friend and younger brother that he must listen more to the powerful men that he has got there.
So you don't agree with the call?
Pardon?
We don't agree with the call?
Oh, I'm not talking about the call. I've put it my way. I would rather tell him the people are there. Those ambassadorial caliber of people, they are there. Use them more.
Are you concerned that the LGBTQI bill has still not seen the light of day?
That is a shame, actually. And Ghanaians are entitled to complain about it. It took front seat in the last campaign, is that not so? I am particularly interested also in the LGBTQ matter. It is against our tradition. It's against our ideas, beliefs, and values. It's against both Muslim and Christian doctrines and pathways. I believe that in order that it may not look that they just took advantage of that situation, let them watch carefully how they handle that.
What's your thoughts on the performance of the Black Stars?
It was President Kufuor who said a coach should be careful and not bother too much, because in Ghana, we are all coaches. It shows you how Ghanaians love football. I will only say that they should not break our hearts when we get there. We don't want to come home after the first leg of matches. We want to stay there a bit and feel that we too are there.
And my final question, your career path has shaped how people see you, but is there anything that makes people around you crack? I'm
very social. It's unfortunate my wife is no longer alive. But when she was alive, we were very good dancers.
Oh.
And operated in that kind of unison. I tell you honestly, I'm lively.
You're lively. Thank you so much.
But Prof. I love the books.
You love the books. Yes. Thank you so much, Prof, for making time to talk to us. So that's our conversation with Professor Aaron Michael Oquaye, a former Speaker of Parliament, also a founding member of the opposition New Patriotic Party, and a professor of politics and a lawyer as well. Thank you so much for joining us for this conversation. My name is Beatrice Edu. Do enjoy the rest of our programs.